Unique is an adjective that means being the only one, sole, being without a like or equal, distinctively characteristic, able to be distinguished from all others of its class or type. Dang, you are unique. You are a God. Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, family, to Tea Time Podcast by Atiya J. This is your self-help, spiritual podcast, uplifting topics we all love to avoid, but we definitely need to conquer. Tea time is your moment to pause, listen, and absorb what is soothing to you. I'm Atiya J, aka Tia, a certified holistic life coach, and this idea was sparked by my passion to help others discover their latent potential, purpose, and significance, especially if you are one who feels overlooked, alone, or forgotten. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. I see you and I feel you. Welcome to Tea Time Podcast. Enjoy the tea. Peace. Assalamu alaikum. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Tea Time Podcast. It's your girl, Atiya, aka Tia, aka TT, and this is your podcast for us introvert, shy people to discuss what is commonly on our minds, but is not common to talk about. Let's dive into it. Today, we are conquering the fear of uniqueness. And if you don't remember this season of the podcast, I wanted to specifically key in on the theme of conquering fear. And today, the topic of uniqueness came to my mind. When I think of uniqueness, the way that I'm approaching it is from our own perspective as human beings, right? Each one of us as human beings are blessed to be alive on this planet because we have a purpose. We have a unique, specific purpose that is not common to anyone, but is specifically for us. When we think about these things right here, our fingerprints, we think about our handprints, we think about the prints on our toes, on our feet. There is no one else on this planet, even if we have a twin, an identical twin, does not have the same fingerprint as us. And that is because we specifically were chosen, picked out, and created by our Creator for us to be specifically who we are. What does that have to do with your purpose? And what does that have to do with our everyday life? When you think about it, and this is something that has been on my mind for a very long time, because I'm going into the small business field, I'm going into the entrepreneur field, and it is very difficult for you to stand on your own in a field, for me, in a field that I don't know anything about business. I never really saw myself as like a business woman. I did see myself as working for myself, but only stepping into this field am I really understanding that if I'm going to work for myself, I need to kind of know sales. I need to know business. I need to be and become a businesswoman in order to be successful the way I want to be in working for myself. It's not only just working for yourself, right? And it is difficult for me to step into a field of other life coaches, other photographers, and the millions of people and what they do, and to stand on my own. Like, I got extremely caught up in comparing myself to other people, what they do. Well, that's also a life coach who focuses on purpose. So how am I supposed to live up to her standard that I'm seeing in her? She has these beautiful posts on social media and Instagram. I need to be able to do that. I can't do that right now.
All right, let's go.
First of all, anybody that you see who seems successful or is somebody that you admire, and I'm speaking to myself, anyone that I admire, they came from somewhere. They did not start there. They did not just wake up and they're perfect, they're immediately somebody to admire, or somebody who has a shiny business, who has all of these things, right? I've had to take a step back for my pregnancy. For the past 9 months, almost a year, I had to take a step back from my business and figure out, what am I doing? How does my business as a life coach actually tie into me, who I am, what I want to give to the world, what my skills and my gifts are? How does my business fit that? What is unique about me that will actually attract people who would want to work with my business, my brand by Atiya J? What about me is going to attract the world? And not just in business, but for me, when it comes to social media, I do like to put things out there. I've always liked to put things out there that makes people think, that makes people positive, right? That makes people have a perspective of the world that is a little uncommon, or comes from a different direction than is acceptable and is also expected from other people. So who I am, not even talking about business, because like I said, it was never my goal to be a businesswoman. I just wanted to work for myself my whole life. So when it comes to me and what I put out there, I want it to be positive for people. I wanted to help people. I want who I am to relate to people in a way where they can say, wow, if Tia can do it, I can do it in my own right. You know what I mean? And that's what's unique to me. What is unique to me is that I believe I have a purpose to aid people in finding, creating, and achieving their latent potential and their purpose in life. And that is specifically for me. Somebody else may have a similar purpose that they believe in, that, they need to help people to launch their businesses or whatever it may be. But I have these fingerprints, right? My creator, Allah, put me on this earth specifically for me to speak the way that I do. Allah put me on this earth specifically for me to be sitting in this chair at the moment, looking into this camera, saying what is coming out of my mouth right now. Who I am was completely planned. Who I am, not trying to conform to other people and what they may want of me and what they may expect of me. When I am not trying to conform, when I am just being myself, I am completely and totally there in my uniqueness, there in my specificity of who I am. Like, being unique, we fear it because we don't want to stand out. Especially me as an introvert. It is very difficult for me to stand out. Let me tell you a story. When I went to college at Rutgers University in 2011, I went to my new student orientation telling myself that I'm going to be the exact opposite of who I was before that point. In high school, in middle school, in elementary school, I was the girl who was very, very extremely shy and afraid to speak up. I was intelligent, but I wouldn't raise my hand in class because I would be sweating thinking about it. I remember when I think it was third grade. I had just skipped a grade. I skipped second grade, and I was in third grade or fourth grade maybe. And I remember that because I did not want to speak up about needing to use the bathroom at recess, and I also didn't want to. I also have a FOMO thing, fear of missing out, but used to have it. I'm good now. As a parent of two, I am fine missing out on a lot of things. Trust me. But when I was in the fourth or third grade, I remember peeing on myself at recess because I didn't want to miss out on what was going on. But I also did not want to go to the teacher and ask to go use the restroom because I was that shy and I peed on myself at school to the point where my mom had to come pick me up. I had to get a change of clothes, everything. And thinking through that of who I was, when I got to college in 2011, I said I'm going to be the absolute opposite of that. I'm going to fight the discomfort that I have and stand out. Like, I'm going to. And at my new student orientation at Rutgers, I made sure to speak up. I made sure to answer all the questions. I made sure to just be more comfortable in my discomfort with myself, right? Because before then, I would just conform. Like, let me just be quiet so nobody notices me. I want to be as small as possible. I don't want to stand out. And I still have some of these traits nowadays that I fight every day. Part of making this podcast is me fighting conforming, me fighting making myself small. I'm not small. I talked about it in last season's Be Like a Tree, right? I'm a giant sequoia tree. I am not small. Atiya is not small. So I need to stand in my uniqueness and be exactly who Atiya is. And when I did that at Rutgers, right? What is funny is that everyone else in my orientation group seemed to be so shy, so quiet. And my orientation leader, I actually became friends with him later because I became an orientation leader myself. And we would talk about how shy my group was, and he was just relieved that I was so stand out, that I kind of helped things to be fun in my orientation group. And that's wild because that's not who I was. And it's even wild now because people who know me from college on, or people who know me as a teacher on, or as a flight attendant on, they think I'm this outgoing, extroverted, confident, socially person that honestly, that's not always me. And I'm glad I come off that way because I'm not being fake, but it takes work for me to be this outgoing person. It takes work for me to stand out, to speak publicly, to do this podcast. It takes personal work to build up my confidence to be able to stand in my uniqueness and do this. And that's unique. Me telling that story and me sharing that information is something unique to me that hopefully can be helpful for somebody else who is having a hard time speaking up, and it will inspire them or give them the steps necessary to speak up. I'm a very just do it person. So that may not be your answer to, the next setting I go into. I'm just going to be the opposite of who I am and be very outgoing. That's just me. I'm very determined. I manifest exactly what I want, and I'm able to kind of flip the switch and do it in that way. But perhaps somebody who's listening now, you need to take a 30-day, time period and just journal about confidence. You need to take a 30-day time period and journal about what is unique to you, who you are, what your gifts are, what your talents are, what your skills are, and how you can become more confident in walking in your purpose and who you are. And there are other tools as well that you can use. Perhaps you need to do more prayer. Perhaps you do need to sit in small group settings to practice with small groups before you do something like a podcast or before you do a public speaking event. That's another thing I did. I took public speaking as well because, being in a social setting is one thing, but being the actual focal point of a room and everybody's listening to you for the value that you have to bring them, that's scary. That is very scary. Shout out to people who do public speaking for a living, and shout out to me because I took public speaking in college so that I can help to combat that. And guess what? I became a teacher after that. And every day when I got in front of that classroom and I taught, that was difficult for me to do just because of my demeanor and how I grew up and just the shyness that I always had. It takes work. It's not natural for me to just stand in front of a room or even to stand in a group of friends and just talk. Like, I'm a very one-on-one, I'm a very introverted, I'm thinking about what I'm saying as I'm saying it. I am thinking about how you may be receiving it as I'm saying it and as I'm thinking of what to say next. All of this stuff goes on in my mind. And as I continue to grow up and to speak with more people, I realize not everyone has that type of mindset. That's unique to me. And it could be that I'm an empath as well. I feel the energy of others, and I try to be a positive energy if they're kind of down, and I try to be a positive energy if they're up. But sometimes that up energy kind of it's a lot for me. So there are a lot of aspects to who I am, to who is Atiya in my uniqueness and in who I truly am when I'm being myself. And I wanted to share this because it does take work to conquer the fear of being unique. Even now, when it comes to being controversial, when I shared my podcast, I hosted a conversation about Black people and the idea of anti-Semitism. I like people to be happy. I don't like problems with anyone. But I cannot squash myself, make myself small, silence my own opinions, silence my own beliefs just to make you comfortable. That doesn't work. And that's kind of the world that we live in right now, where uniqueness and specific opinions and specific beliefs that are not accepted by the general society, whatever general society it is, it's white supremacy. General society is white supremacy. They control it. There are people who control the ideas and beliefs that we have. I studied psychology in college, and there are psychologists who run the ideas that we see. There are people who control your reaction to certain things on a mass scale. Yes. So, going back to say that when we are in our uniqueness, which is generally being squashed nowadays, we are being ourselves. Nobody's going to have all of the same opinions and judgments and ideas and philosophies and purpose. Nobody's going to have that. You are specifically unique. You have fingerprints, and those fingerprints, whenever you feel like you need to conform or you're trying to make yourself small, I have a tip. The fingerprints, look at them. Look at your fingers. Whenever you feel like what you're about to share on social media is not relevant, look at your fingertips. Look at them. Look at those prints. No one else in the world has that. So whatever you're about to say, whatever you're about to do, it is relevant. It's extremely relevant. It's important, and it's ordained, right? We need it. We need that because you're here on this earth not to be irrelevant. You're here on this earth because who you are, in essence, no matter if you are in a good place or bad place, who you are is relevant, important, and necessary for the world to continue into a positive place. When there are a whole bunch of people being opposite of who we are and should be, there's a whole bunch of people just conforming to general thought rather than living in uniqueness and having their own free thinking, free mind thoughts, the world cannot grow. There is importance to your uniqueness. And we never know how impactful us just sharing ourselves can be for the world. Not a specific individual, not your children, not your family, but for the world. Imagine if Martin Luther King Jr. never spoke up. Imagine if Malcolm X never spoke up, never decided to read those books while he was in prison. Imagine that. Imagine if the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan never spoke up. Imagine if he was too afraid to call 1 million black men to Washington, D.C. in 1995. Like, imagine if the Million Man March never happened because Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was like, I'm not sure. I don't think this can happen. You know, there are other leaders. They can call the Million Man March to happen. Imagine that, and imagine if you do not share your ideas, what is not happening within the world. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine it. So let's begin to live in our uniqueness. Let's begin to accept our uniqueness. Something that I love, and hopefully I can add in the clip, is how the minister and Minister Ishmael Muhammad describes how we're all born. We're all alive, right? We were one sperm out of millions to make it to the egg in our mother's wombs, to be able to fertilize that egg, for that baby then to be able to actually fully develop in the mother's womb, because a lot of babies do not fully develop, to then to be successfully born, because a lot of babies are not successfully born, to then to be able to develop from a baby into who we are right now.
Did you know that before you came to birth, you underwent 3 great trials to determine whether you were fit to run the race of life? Look, all of us were once sperm. Was there anybody here that was not sperm at one time? No. Okay. So we all had a common beginning, right?
Yes, sir. Very common.
Now, very common. And when Dad emitted sperm into the vaginal tract of Mom, how many sperm were in that, I guess you would call it, that ejaculation? I ain't being vulgar. Was it 1 sperm, 2 sperms? Sometime it might have been 1 billion tiny microscopic sperm. So you were in a race before you got here, because you were in competition with another 100 million, 2 billion other sperm, all trying to reach the egg and fertilize the egg. Swimming. Check it out. And you were 1 in 100 million, 1 in a billion, and you made it. Okay? The vaginal tract of the female is a hostile environment. Did you know that? That sperm got to swim and swim fast. Got to get to the egg, otherwise the acidic nature of the vaginal tract will kill me. So you had competition, you had a hostile environment, and you had to swim upstream against gravity to fertilize the egg. And you accomplished all 3 while you were just a tiny microscopic sperm. Now you're a big man. You gonna tell me that you did this when you were so small that we had to put you under a microscope to even see you? And now you complaining? You know what I mean? It's too many people. I can't make it. No. Your odds are not like they were then. You won. How many is in this place? You can make it. I'm gonna kill myself. Don't talk like that. Ain't nothing that bad that you should take your life. You can always overcome. Look, the environment that you came through is hostile. This is a hostile environment. Swim. You can make it. Pull up against the pull of gravity. You can make it. You're down, but you don't have to stay down. You can get up. You are of God, made in his image and after his likeness.
There was a trial every single inch of the way, right? And most of that trial was in the womb, because the womb is acidic. The womb fights the sperm, right? The sperm is something that the womb tries to kill so that the sperm can't get to the egg. However, we were that sperm that was able to make it to the egg and to successfully fertilize the egg. That is a lot of work. But Allah, the creator, decided that you should be that sperm. Imagine if you don't do what you know you're supposed to do. Imagine when you are not living in your uniqueness. Imagine when you hide yourself and make yourself small, what you're taking away from the world. Because you were important enough to be able to successfully go into the womb and successfully become who you are today. So continue to be yourself, continue to be who you are. And I'm speaking to myself, right? I cannot continue to let my fear of standing out, my fear of being unique, to squash what I do, right? My fear of stepping into the business world as a businesswoman now, I can't allow that to stop me from doing what I need to do to live in my purpose, to walk forward and move forward in life towards my dreams, towards what I still want to do with my life. Because guess what? As a wife, mom, stay-at-home mom, who I am today, I dreamed about that as a little girl. I dreamed to be able to live this life. When I was a teacher, as a little girl, my mom said at 6, I was telling her I wanted to be a teacher. I did it. But that's because I started moving forward in my purpose. And at some point, because this society is created to stress you out, is created to squash your dreams, is created to make you conform, and to not be unique, and to not be yourself. So at some point, I have to admit, I did get squashed. Like, my ideas and my dreams, they did kind of get put on the back burner because I got stressed out with the world, and I began to believe that I couldn't actually achieve it. That's not true. I'm killing that today because I have these fingerprints. Can you see them? You can see them. And these fingerprints let me know that I am exactly who I need to be, and all I need to do is walk forward in who I am by the will of Allah, right? By praying to my creator, by being at peace, being present, and being confident in myself and who I am. Not who they are, not what I see on Instagram from what people are posting, not with what I see on YouTube with the successful people I admire. I'm not Ayan Levanzant. I love her, learn from her, and I strive to be as wise as she is. But I'm not her. I am Atiya J. And I'm exactly who I am and who I need to be and who Allah has blessed me to be in order to move forward in my life and my purpose. So let me walk in that uniqueness. Let me be unapologetically me, and authentic and genuine and opinionated, and let me get into those conflicts and work it out, because I'm coming from a place of love. I'm coming from a place of just striving to live free. Freedom, justice, and equality. So on that note, I pray and hope that this podcast helps you, just like I have in my life in certain aspects and I'm striving to do now. I pray that this podcast helps you to conquer your fear of being unique and just being you. On that note, thank you for listening. I hope that you have a wonderful day. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. You can go to patreon.com/Tea Time Podcast and support the podcast by becoming a part of the Tea Time family. You can also go to buyatiyaj.com/shop and get Tea Time Podcast merch, such as a Tea Time Podcast mug, which is very cute, and you can fit all 4 fingers in it. My aunt told me that was important for her. She loves it. So get yourself a Tea Time Podcast mug. Subscribe on Patreon, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you are on YouTube. Make sure that if you are listening on Spotify, you follow the podcast. And I thank you all for tuning in and listening. Peace.